Travels of the Ellis Arbor is a TTRPG story set in the world of Bastion using the Vagrant Sun campaign setting. Tune in for episode 47, Murmurs. This resolution of Nout's wayward adventure did little to quieten Darian's soul. The realization that Nout had come all this way simply to end the hold that the Lady of Blood had over him, it did not sit well. He wasn't sure what to make of it. Neither the fact that Nout would go to such lengths to save the captain, without ask, mind you, nor whether this was in fact what Darian had wanted. As the events within Araquiel's tower concluded, the captain knew he'd have to find a solution, and fast. The reality that the lady saw Nout as a foe wasn't uncommon. On numerous occasions, she'd asked him to halt the actions of Carpathian, especially if his designs were tinted in necromantic colors. Never had she blatantly asked Darian to murder one of his companions. Never had she been so specific with her request. Never had he felt such burning contempt from his patron. Nevertheless, a pathway had revealed itself. A narrative unfurled before them. Nout was to find a way to conduct a severance ritual. A path that had led him to the Carpathian dungeons and to the sleeping malice therein. A path that, for the remaining crew of the Ellis Arbor, they must follow in order to ensure the artificer's well-being. And so the trio thanked Friedman for his advice and hospitality, and began to set off for the veil between the cairn and the dungeon. Not before Edward spoke in alarm. "Wait! We're forgetting something!" Turning to face the young gunsmith, Darian noticed the quiet form of Moore, playfully following along behind. Of course, he'd almost forgotten the situation that found Moore adrift within their own consciousness. The spirit within Moore's frame had been so quiet and unobtrusive. He'd all but forgotten that the jungles of Silas Mar had taken their companion too.
"Right, of course. Friedman, I apologize to impose on you further, but we have need of fixing another predicament. It may require your attention." "Of course, I'd be glad to assist the companions of Nout."
Friedman invited Moore to sit at a pew. Their short form poised and comfortable, nestled atop a soft cushion. Taking a small golden censer in hand, the acolyte waved across the myconid's form, closing his eyes and muttering words beneath his breath. The embers burning within the censer began to coil upwards, drifting aloft before resting around Moore's cap. In a familiar pattern, they glowed a vibrant orange, then red, before settling on a soft blue light.
"I see. So your friend is indeed a creature of the Underdark. It appears that Moore's spirit has recoiled within itself. Sensing it was threatened by an imposing force, it appears that Moore was able to protect their etheric body by vacating their form. It also appears that a spirit has filled the vacant space where their soul once was."
At this, the spirit retorted.
Yes, I've inherited the body of this creature for a time. A wonderful adventure we have been on. I've so enjoyed bathing in the light of Pleiades. But I must say, the encroaching darkness of this mountain is most peculiar.
The group paused as the spirit mentioned the darkness of the mountain.
If you'll permit me, I'd be excited to follow you into the dungeons of Carpathian. I am a being of light, a light that could not be snuffed even from within Silas Mar. I'd be very curious to see how light and darkness pair, twisting and turning, a harmony of light and shade. So effervescent, so peculiar.
Somewhat reluctantly, Darian agreed to the spirit's terms. The gathering blue lights created a small silhouette as the spirit left Moore's body. Quietly, their Myconid friends slumped to the side as the spirit manifested in front of them.
Perhaps it's best to take this sprite with you. We'll need to take great care of Moore's body. I'm certain we can coax the spirit free from within, but they'll need to stay with us through the night. I'm certain that our High Priest, Master Andesi, could prepare a ritual that would encourage Moore to return.
And so the party left Moore in the capable hands of this chapel of Pleiades. Now, with the small glowing form of the jungle sprite, they set toward the base of the mountain, beneath the earth and rock, to the veil between the physical and the abyssal. All the while, Darian couldn't help but hear the quiet, rhythmic murmuring coming from the sprite, though he swore it sounded more harsh than a murmur, like a resonant, labored cackle, trying desperately to claw through a scratchy throat. The deepest parts of Midas Cairn led to a cave opening, almost 100 feet across. Laid upon the stone and the ground in front of the opening, rolls of black cloth and piles of silver and gold coins adorned it. Offerings of incense and silk, pouches of treasure, and all manner of iconography that even Carpathian didn't recognize. As they continued on, a form began to appear from within the gaping maw. The shadow of the cave opening gave way to reveal another, tall figure, scaled and scarred from head to toe, shoulders clad in strips of cloth and rolls of bandages that hid all manner of wounds. As they stepped through, the crew bore witness to the horns, the long ears and claws of the fiendish form of a creature, not unlike the one that accosted them at the gate. Though this figure seemed more lithe and staggering than the first. Their eyes weren't like deep black pits. Instead, they were covered in scars and wounds, much like the rest of their body. Her body, a feminine form wound with black cloth and bandages, came to greet them. And with a shaky, rickety voice, accompanied by a grin most maniacal, the creature spoke.
Well, I didn't expect to see more of this infamous band of pirates. I fear this is not the final time the veil will bear witness to such wayfarers of fate.
As the figure grinned, skin stretched across her scarred face. Darian was fearful that much wider a smile would tear her scars.
I am the Veil Keeper. I am Wildflower. Do not be afraid to approach. We Keith may be strange of appearance, but we are not bereft of common hospitality. You come seeking your friend within the darkness, haven't you?
Darian approached, his hand still on his weapon.
You knew of our coming.
Come, dear. I may not have eyes to see, but even the slowest of mind could hear the approaching footsteps of a captain coming to claim his crew. Your presence has been felt even before your feet stood within the hall of Pleiades.
We've come to find our companion, Nout, as you said. Will you help us? The creature, a Keith named Wildflower, bid them enter the cave, inviting the spirit to do so as well. The faintest glow of candlelight adorned their steps, as they witnessed more and more of these offering piles, adorned with black cloth, coal, and incense. And as their eyes adjusted, they began to see what was hidden within. The towers of charity present, yet untouched, created a walkway to the back of the cave. As the roof of the stone curved down to meet the far wall, the group began to make sense of the space. At the very back of the cave, the wall opened to a vacant black hole. Even more of that black cloth dangled harmlessly in front of the hole, creating a kind of torn curtain. As the smell of incense continued to waft through the cave, the crew could sense something else, intertwined with that overpowering aroma. Blood. The burning incense, the lit candles, and the musty, decaying cloth was simply a mask for the unmistakable, overpowering smell of blood on the air. And as winds slowly lapped through the hole at the back of the cave, the stench became almost overpowering. Both Darian and Edward couldn't help but cover their noses.
I cannot encourage you to enter the pit. The demons from beyond are the same ilk that birthed us. Our ancestors made a terrible choice many centuries ago. We were twisted by the foul things beyond the veil, forever tormented to appear as half-demon. The beasts that you see before you.
Wildflower turned to face the veil. Her smile turned to sadness as her hand outstretched towards it.
Which is why the veil must be kept. Offerings must be given. The darkness must be kept at bay. That is my purpose. The purpose of all Kiev. To be a warning not to walk idly into the darkness.
Mustering his courage, Darian approached the Veil Keeper with his eyes firmly affixed upon the veil.
We must approach the darkness. Nout entered into the pit of his own accord, and we must bring him back. Will you let us beyond the veil? Are you tasked of keeping all else from entering?
And as the captain spoke, whispers began to drift on the air, murmurs of deep, primordial incantations. Low, growling and burrowing thoughts began to press their way into the crew's minds. An unmistakable wave of fear and loathing as Darian asked the question of the Veil Keeper.
Of course, my job is not to stop people from going in, only demons from leaving, and to warn the faint of heart. Your friend didn't heed my warning either. He seemed determined, like his mind was made from the beginning.
The murmurs grew to a crescendo before passing by on the heavy, burning air.
Now, don't say that Wildflower never warned you.
Travels of the Ellis Arbor is made possible by the generous support of our subscribers, followers, and most notably, our patrons. Special thanks to new and existing patrons for our Moon, Wedge, Crown, and Hex tier subscriptions. Please subscribe, give a like or a comment, follow us on Twitter, and stay tuned for the next episode. Make sure to follow us here on YouTube, on Spotify, and on twitch.tv/lonomy. Don't forget, take care of each other.